Good afternoon, my beloved LinkedIn family. I am here with Ozzin Jun. I am such a fan of Ozzin's. Just so thrilled that she honored me with the opportunity to interview her. Ozzin, I met at one of my sermons when I did my sermon at 7 a.m. And ever since I met her, I've been a fan. She is the queen of resilience. She was someone who went through quite a trauma. We're going to talk about that. She was kidnapped and raped 3 times, and she bounced back. She was on the cover of Forbes magazine. She was a mentor to the Bai royal family. She's going to tell her story. I'm going to introduce Ozzin. Say hello. You're live.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, David. I'm so excited for our talk, and I can't wait to share the journey and everything I've learned so far in the journey.
Well, the one thing I love about Ozzin, she's a devout Christian. She's a follower of Jesus. I met her at my sermon, and I'm going to let her do most of the talking. Ozzin, could you share, first of all, some insights into your early life and the experiences that shaped your journey?
I was born originally in South Korea, and by the age of 6, 7 years old, I came to Switzerland and I grew up here all my life. When I was 18, I wanted to become an artist because originally I started in the hotel industry and hospitality here in Switzerland. Then the artistic called me and I actually dropped out the first time in school then. I went to New York right the next day. It was a pretty bold move, but however, my mom really supported me. I found quickly out during that gap year where I was like doing freelance as an artist, like really drawing paintings and doing stuff, that I realized art alone is not what I wanted. I look for something where I can be creative, but also solve like real life problems. So that's like where I discovered entrepreneurship and something called design management. That got me back to university. When I returned and I finished my study to go to university, 1 year in the university, I was already looking for side hustles because I grew up in a family without a father. So it was just my mom, my younger sister, and I still don't know where my real father is. So it's a very complicated like family story, but I really want to find a way to make money online and support also our family. That's where my first side hustles start to take off in digital marketing, personal branding. I've done a bunch of things in online space until 2021, where I had this calling to transform lives because I felt I was chasing more than money. I want to transform people. That's where empowerment and coaching came in. I invested into a mentor. I went all in. In my first 8 months, I made my first 6-figure cash months. From there, I started to scale. And it was first an up and down. I had to work on a lot of foundations to stay sustainable. But now, fast forward today, I've impacted 115,000 people through my coaching and keynotes. As you mentioned, Forbes mentioned, I've done a lot of live radio interviews and keynotes. And yeah, that's pretty much in summary of how I grew up. Then obviously we will talk about that, certain things that impacted me, obviously like traumas. But yeah, looking back, it's everything was meant to happen.
Well, you went through quite a trauma, and I read about that. Do you want to tell my audience what happened and how you found the strength to overcome that trauma?
Yes, in 2019, 18, I was in a toxic, abusive relationship. I realized within the first 3 months that it was very controlling, abusive. I had no freedom, and it started already with like huge stalking. When I say stalking, it was 24/7 stalking. So it was really like 100 text messages a day. I would have like 200 calls, 50 social media accounts, people that were following me to school, library. The cause of that was me breaking up with my ex that was so abusive to me. But it wasn't as simple because many times people wonder, why didn't you just break up and ignore him? It was a little bit harder because despite blocking him in everywhere, like he would follow me everywhere, bombard me, pay people to follow me. And then I was kidnapped 3 times in a row here in Switzerland. Third time, it totally escalated because the first 2 times I luckily came back home safely by being able to kind of act along. And then I was so much in shock, I didn't really immediately talk about it. And I didn't want to go to the police and involve many people inside. I thought I can handle it. But the third time when I was kidnapped, he put me into the car. I had no time to defend. I was like literally running away on the highways, trying to flee from him. And that's where he didn't just kidnap me, but he took me to a different place. Then he raped me in a hotel room where I couldn't go out and I was like locked up. And long story short, I luckily, by a blessing of Jesus, I got found by a local policeman at 3 a.m. in the morning. I got safe back home. But obviously, the trauma impacted me so much with a lot of trust issues, fear, PTSD. I didn't even know how much it impacted me until I was in a new relationship. So that was what happened in 2018.
To me, this is like, wow, you are such a resilient person, the way you bounced back. You're talking about this and you're smiling. It's like, to me, wow, I don't know if I could have handled this as well as you have. How did you bounce back? You don't seem like you went through all this. You seem so normal.
Well, I think it was definitely a process because in that moment it was so tough, very hard. And I think I really want to talk about the moment after I got home from the rape and kidnap, how worried my mom was. Like my whole family was involved. It was a court case that I went through for 3 years and it was a huge mess. This guy didn't stop until the police gave a warning. Otherwise, he would get expelled from Switzerland. But I think the thing that really kept me going was when I was like crying my eyeballs out every night in the bed, it was turning and flipping the selfie stick, not just towards me, but towards other people. And when you go through immense pain, I think there is so much blessing and in the suffering, and that I knew I had to get up for other people, also for my family and for everyone else, because I'm very ambitious, very impact driven, and I really believe that God gave us each a calling. I felt that in those dark times, although I wasn't really walking the way I am today with Jesus, I felt this whisper. I think it's the Holy Spirit that keep telling me, get up, move on. You cannot let the past define you. That's what I did. When I came home, I just studied the shit out of me because I missed out so many exams. Then I graduated as one of the second best students. It was so amazing how I could catch up. Then after the graduation, my tears kept coming out. I think it was for me really a moment where also after that, entrepreneurship was the thing that kept me going because I knew that this was for me a better chance to rise even further. Thanks to this experience, I'm publishing this year even my own book called Marry Yourself, which speaks about the whole journey. I think it's really walking to Jesus and then really anchoring into the purpose that really helped me.
The way I see it, the authorities, they failed you. I mean, you were stalked, you were harassed. How did their inaction really fuel your determination to succeed? And do you have any animosity towards the authorities? Because really, this shouldn't have happened if they were doing their job. At least that's the way I see it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Here, I really realized in Switzerland, it has usually a reputation that things are here very safe. I would say living here my whole life, Switzerland is pretty safe. It has really great education, health system, law system as well. But when it comes to stalking, there is no law that currently exists. And literally, no. The only law that was listed is that it interferes with privacy issues, and that's not strong enough. The same thing for obviously rape. Rape is strongly in the law, obviously prohibited. But because there was no direct evidence of a video of me getting raped and things, it was hard to
I mean,
prove.
come on.
It's hard and it was so tough, and I told them already I had all the screenshots, the evidence of the chats and stuff. Like there were so many things, a lot of people that were involved that could literally say and testify that I went through this, and some things got approved and other things is something that just 2 weeks ago I met the Swiss president here in Switzerland,
Yes,
and I could expressed to him directly about this issue. And right now we're working towards to adapt the stalking law and introduce it into the Swiss system. So something is already changing, and I'm now proactively in the part of the process wanting to change and adapt the laws for future victims to not go through the same thing.
Do you have any animosity towards the authorities because they didn't even help you?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by
I mean,
what do
the
you like?
animosity. Do you feel, let's say, anger or hatred towards the government for their inaction?
For sure, in the process, I'm not gonna lie, it was sometimes very emotional because again, I went through 3 years, the whole thing, and there were moments, even on my birthday, I had to like sit for 10 hours at the court crying and just telling my story 10 million times. And nothing happens. I really couldn't understand. I was kind of angry at the government. I was angry at the police. I was angry at my ex. I was angry at so many things. I was upset. And I think the word frustration would describe that really well. But again, I kind of had to, at some point, what really helped me is to see that more as a neutral project. I kind of zoomed out and I just accepted it. I accepted it happened. I accepted something has to be done with it. What happens now? Just like moving on fast, accepting how I felt. That's something what I felt. I also think looking at it like contextually, I think it's like police, they're just doing also their job. So it's a deeper problem than that. And then when we go to the law, the judge is also just doing their job and when a law doesn't exist. So it's very interconnected. So I cannot really be mad at the authorities. It's more like the holistic gaps. And I try to view that from a different angle, how I can solve the problems for the future victims. I don't have like right now resentment and things. I think it's a lot of forgiveness, a lot of positivity and learning through this.
See, I have a daughter about your age, and I'm a Christian, and I preach. But if something like this happened to my daughter, and I got to be honest here, I don't know if I would be able to control myself. Really, I would do something very unchristian because it's reprehensible. And I gather from what you're saying, nothing happened to him.
Mm,
I
yeah.
mean, he
Well,
got.
it definitely triggered a lot of people. After I told my story to some of my other friends, there were some friends that literally told me, I want to kill this man. Where is he? Do we have gun? Do you have access to that? Like a lot of the reaction like this. And also back time when I got raped and kidnapped at the third time, I had the last time I had like contact was a friend that was on top of my WhatsApp list. He was like, actually a coworker. I sent the location to him and I told him I got kidnapped. And that was the last access until because my ex destroyed my phone and then I have no contact with anyone. I was lucky that actually that friend came to me on spot to literally save me because if my stepfather would have come or anyone else, I think they would have beaten the shit out of him because my family would have lost their shit. I think I'm very lucky that things were still in control and I had the time to breathe through because I was confronted many times with him directly at court and things, which I think is something that has to be changed as well.
Well, God help me because I pray every morning, I preach every morning. I'm an ordained minister, but you are like my daughter. I see my daughter in you. My daughter's your age, and I'm just going to say I wouldn't be able to control myself. I don't know how your family did it. I'm sure you struggled after this happened with reclaiming your power. What did you do every day to keep you grounded in strength?
I think the first thing that really helped me is like today I would say it would be prayers, but back then I wasn't as walking with Jesus. I feel the way I do it today. So I grew up in a Christian household, but I think what kept me back then going was more my love towards my family, the love I had towards other people. Again, it kind of ties in back to the purpose, and I've always been very social and impact driven since I was like 14. Every day I would like journal a lot and write out my thoughts. I've always been into personal development. So I think it's through entrepreneurship, it forced me to become a better leader. I think walking in power over just pain and speaking a life over and victory over everything I did, that really helped me. This whole thing about lacking self-worth, tolerating a lot of the BS, and even like toxic relationship. I thought back then I was owning my self-worth. I quickly realized that I wasn't. The moment I started to view myself differently, talk to me more powerful things and really feeling it, and stop tolerating and just raising the standards, that helped me to make more money than ever. It helped me to have better health. It helped me to show up in power and attract and meet people in their power, because I wasn't just talking about the pain and misery. I think there's a difference between addressing them versus really speaking into the power because of what you went through. I think that talk with myself and this relationship, which I call marrying yourself, marrying Jesus, having a deeper relationship with yourself, that really helped me during those times. Like, keep dating yourself, take yourself out. And for me, having also financial debt, six-figure debt that I was sitting on, I was terrible with money. So for me, it started with money dates, setting up every Monday money dates and checking in, and the 5 love languages, applying that not just to the partner, but to myself, like acts of services. How do I treat myself? How do I talk myself? That's the starting point of a lot of the empowerment that helped me.
Let's switch gears to something positive. What inspired you to venture into business mentorship and the social media scene?
I think the first thing that really called me is because it was just so simple to get in, because social media is something I think our generation grew up with, and it gives us a chance that some, even like my parents, didn't have. So already at an early age, I had Instagram, Facebook, but I wasn't really serious about making money or doing business. It was in 2021 officially where I really took it seriously, as I mentioned, when I hired a mentor. And there, my mentor explained to me the power of social media. You don't have to pay a lot. It's like zero upfront cost. You, your voice, a camera, your phone, and you can print millions if you just show up. So I started to share my story every single day. I shared my offer. I talked and sell every single day. There was no day I was not selling. I changed my mind to not just selling, but it's really about the service, helping people. It's really my duty. And that changed my life when I had my first 5,000 clients, and then a client at 10,000. And I started to learn high ticket sales. I saw is really money is a reflection of the impact I'm making in people's lives. And when I started to see that, and I went on podcasts, I got invited on stage. I got invited to Hyundai from the CEO there. All the things, even with Dubai, meeting the royal family, all of that was possible because of a compound effect of social media. That's where I took everything even more seriously. I came to the point where I really fall in love with that, because I get to connect with people like you, with other people, and it would have never been possible without social media.
I think we had the same mentor. We have the same person who mentored us about social media. That's Shanae Marie that you work with.
Yes, I had multiple mentors in my journey. So in the very beginning, it was somebody else in coaching. And then depending on the area specialized, I had different mentors. But when it comes to LinkedIn, Shanae is like the go-to person. So I've learned through
Yeah.
Shanae LinkedIn marketing, organic marketing, and that helped me a lot to build even my skill set up.
To be very candid, it was Shanae's team that told me to interview you some time back, and I'm very, very thankful. Tell me about how you built a multiple six-figure business in just 8 months, and how you eventually was featured on Times Square, I understand, in New York.
Yes. Well, I think it's a couple of things, but I would say for anyone who wants to get to the six-figure mark first, I think there's so many ways these days to make money. The number one thing is don't just follow the money. Like, what really, like, zoom out, and what is it beyond just a short term? What's the trademark and legacy you want to leave? I think that question, whether it's coaching, doing digital products, e-commerce, there's so many ways. But I think number one is like getting the clarity and where you're going to play the long-term game. Then obviously when you're in coaching or you have a service-based business, the number one thing that helped me was content creation. So I call it content that is like premium. Everything you have to view your every content piece that you do as a funnel towards the offer that you have. So you can do value content, educational content, belief shifting content, telling your story. There's a couple of frameworks that I teach, especially messaging. You have to understand messaging, be really good at what you are only as good as you communicate. A lot of the people, they are so good in what they do, but they're frustrated. They're not making the income because their zone of genius doesn't match up the messaging. Learn messaging and content. Number two, after that is traffic. Ask yourself daily, what can I do today to increase the eyeballs on my offer? That means, for example, podcasts like what you and I do with the podcasting right now, with Facebook groups. There's so many ways on how to get more visibility. Number three would be Messenger. Many people focus on content creation. They have all this collaboration and visibility, but they still don't convert. That's because they're not having enough conversations. Taking the time to make genuine connections, having conversations in the DMs, whether you make the sales in the DMs or you go into a sales call. And the fourth step would be make the sale. So you get on a call, you're showing up as a leader, as a consultant, you're here to genuinely help people. You're turned down if it's not a right match. And if it's a right match, you take the money, you make people commit, and you move on and solve the problem. If not, you can also do a DM sales. I would say focus on those four activities: content, traffic, sales, and messenger. And that's how you scale to 6 figures. From there will be more things that you will learn. But the core element in that I've really learned in a hard way is show up in power. At the end of the day, you can have the best systems, strategies, mentor, but everything will be a scam if you don't take action. And you have to show up as yourself, as your authentic self. That means let out your voice to be raw, the way it is. Talk to the audience the way you would talk at home with your husband, wife, very raw and free, and showing your power up, and you will attract people in their power.
You were featured on the cover of Forbes magazine. They called you the Empress of Mentorship and the voice of Gen Z. What does that mean to you to accomplish something so great? The cover of Forbes.
Thank you. Well, for me, it was a huge milestone because all of these things is something that I just shortly dreamed about just like 4 years ago. When I was in my bedroom, I was a nobody. I was just like really starting it. I didn't have any connections. I think when I really look back, it's beyond just like the media features, the story that is just behind all of that, because it's like, as I mentioned, the rape, the trauma, the staying power when things were really hard, and being featured there feels really like an honor. And I get to meet more and more people that are also doing amazing other things in their world. To co-create with other leaders has been more amazing than ever to make further impact.
Now, could you elaborate on your role as the mentor to the Dubai royal family and also the impact that's had on you?
In 2023, I got invited to Dubai. It was at the Global Women Leadership Awards. And they had a whole women empowerment event and award show they do every year. And I got nominated as the best business mentor there. I just submitted the things, what they wanted, the impact I've done through the coaching, obviously through the 4 years, impacting people online and offline through keynotes. I've also acted as a UN Peace Ambassador and as a country director of Global Peace Chain, impacting 15,000 people in Nigeria and other third world countries through the project that I was doing against domestic violence that ties in very close to my story about rape and kidnap, to teach women and girls out there to set boundaries and how to heal from such experiences. So it's very close to the peace work I do and also the business work I do, both. When I was there and on stage, I could share my story. The royal family from Dubai was there and I received my award with them together on stage. It was a huge moment. It was super fun as well. It was also special to receive such things actually in Dubai because I felt Dubai was still an evolving country when it comes to women empowerment. I had this talk with my boyfriend and we both said, wow, that's pretty controversial. How can you have a woman empowerment event in Dubai? But I'm very happy that things are progressing. And for sure, every culture still has its rules. Like, for example, guys don't shake hands with the women there on spot. But I felt very supported. And just the moment in a different culture was, for me, an amazing experience to have.
Okay. What other ways are you using your platform to support and advocate for survivors of abuse and systematic failures? Because it's not just abuse, the system, it failed you, it fails a lot of people.
Yes. Well, I think through social media, the first thing that I always do is to create content. So I think it's like showing up in posts, in the stories, telling the stories again. And then also, like, I always ask before I post something, like, what's really the intention of this post? What's like the key takeaway? What's the energy of this post? Because a lot of the time people try to be consistent, to just be consistent, but I really want to post everything that I do also with a very strong power behind that. So sometimes less is more because of the quality. I would say I do it through podcasting, through the coaching. I do it through UN Peace Ambassador. It's a lot of also volunteer work as well. Then the other thing that I do is through collaborations, whether it's like lives, doing events, in-person events as well. I just try to leverage every platform in ways. For me, what comes very easy is speaking and writing. So I use both of these expressions to even reach presidents, to get even into politics, because at the end of the day, you only have so much power. Depending on how well you communicate, how well you build the relationships, how well you also market yourself. I've learned that to constantly sell yourself, sell the idea, negotiate, even the law changes as well, and do the work, research the things in advance before meeting the people.
What are your future goals?
The future goal is something that I already live by every day. I'm very happy with what I do today with coaching and speaking. I think where I see the bigger vision going is I want to build healing resorts and leadership academies. I have like already signature program around leadership and messaging that I teach people that amplifies your money, health, and relationships. Where I really see that going is I want to be able to connect my entrepreneurship through this whole healing work that I do through Jesus. The legacy really lies in how can I empower today even one person to walk to Jesus, give their life to Jesus, because that's just everything. For me, that part, and then knowing, equipping people with the skill set to be able to have this freedom to do what they love, and you can still make money and all of these things, that's really a big passion. The third part that I really want, and I feel this calling, is to unify South and North Korea. I know this is super random, but already years ago I felt this call. That's why, I don't know, for some reason diplomacy came in my way. That's how I got into UN Peace Ambassador. That happened just like 2 years ago. Now I feel all the people that I meet, or even president like Trump or the Swiss president, I knew I'm going to meet them very soon. A lot of the things that I've imagined, it is happening. I really want to be able to support the unification of South and North Korea in the upcoming years.
Well, that's a very admirable goal. A lot of people go through adversity. What advice would you offer them if someone is seeking to transform their life after going through something like you went through?
I think the number one goal is run to the cross, run to Jesus, repent, and really surrendering fully to that is the number one advice I can give. I think that because when you do that, your purpose is already given, because many times people look for the purpose and they're very confused. What should I do? I had this rock bottom moment. I feel very chaotic. I think in my journey, I've really learned the moment I gave my life to Jesus, I awakened even deeper to the purpose that was already given. I really believe everyone has already a calling. Then also this whole thing, the whole past around the rape and abuse, it opened doors to demons. I was tormented by PTSD, panic attacks, by things with lust. And it was the demon coming in so many ways and shape and forms. It tormented my healthy relationship that I'm in for 4 years. I think we talk a lot about the event itself that was terrible, but I personally find the event after that is even more terrible, because the healing process is so messy. It comes up in so many different ways. we are our own triggers, but then it happens. You're in a good situation, people say one word, one thing, and you trigger yourself. I really think the ultimate way to heal is only through Jesus, is through the words, reading the Bible, praying, just starting, getting to a community where people pray, even that's very new for you. The number two step from that, if you go through adversity, is give yourself lots of self-compassion. I used to always tell people have lots of self-love, but I think compassion is more important, because when things go well and you're in your power, you can show up powerfully, but when things don't go well, who are you? This is where a lot of people, their identity is like crawling on the floor. You have to put your identity into something permanent, and that is through Christ alone, and through compassion and the love that you give to yourself and to other people. So that's my 2 cents for people who go through adversity.
Well, amen to that. That is beautiful. What legacy do you hope to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered? I know you're very young. Maybe you haven't even thought about that.
Oh, I thought of that many, many times. I think one of the first things I want to be remembered for is someone that is funny and wise, someone that is very passionate and in love with the Christ. I think that for me is very important. Also, I think someone that does the right things, because it's this world, you cannot please everyone. I always thought like, oh, I'm this kind person, I love everyone, I'm gonna serve and please, but that's not the case, especially if you're a Jesus follower. I've learned, don't be sugar, you have to be salt. For some people you'll be too salty, but when you make true impact, you will have people that will definitely misunderstand you, mistreat you, hate you, or have many reasons to pull you down. I think to rise above that and just being remembered as someone that is resilient, that can overcome anything, that's something that I want. And the legacy I want to leave is to bring more people to Christ, to save people so they can live an eternal life. And for the person that has creative spirit, I see myself as a very multi-passionate being, and I used to niche myself down to I'm this businesswoman. As I mentioned, I started out as an artist, and it still breathes in me. I really learned beyond the titles, just surrender to Jesus. You are an artist, you can be an author, you're a speaker. That's exactly what I want to do. Just heal people and bring them to Christ.
You are so beautiful. Last question. A lot of people don't think you could be wealthy, successful, and follow Christ and follow God. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I think I understand where it's coming from. It used to be also my belief. Growing up, I used to hear a lot, money is root of all evil. I used to hear a lot as a Christian, like you have to stay humble, cannot promote yourself too much, don't be salesy, don't be that. Like there's a lot of like beliefs, and you want to be a good Christian. But I think we should not confuse that, because Jesus wants you to be abundant. Like a lot of the biblical figures were really wealthy. I think it's the question around with what type of intention and source do you make the money. You can make money through the devil, through Satan. When you worship money, when you worship the power, when you worship followers, fame, and the things. But if you go within with purity and you go with the motives and surrendering of what Jesus wants you to do in his will and not just through your will, I want to do, it's like what Jesus wants me to do. I think that part, you can make lots of money through the impact through Jesus. That's again all what I'm saying. The way I'm known as the wealth queen is because I always speak about you can have it all. You can have a healthy relationship. You don't have to sacrifice your marriage and relationship for money. We have different seasons, obviously, as an entrepreneur that we go through, some more intense than others. But overall, you can have Christ as the center, number one, have great health, and then also have great relationship. And ironically, when you have better health and relationship, you also make more money. You kind of need to work simultaneously on that. In the past, I used to separate them all. Like, oh, I have to work on this business. Then I used to neglect my health. Then you pay later when you neglect your health. And the same thing for relationship. You don't want to be rich and lonely. I think it's so important to set goals in your spirit. What are your spiritual goals? Even if it's like 10 minutes prayer. What is your physical goal? Even if it's like 20 minutes movement every day, start small. And then what's the relationship goal? Present time with your loved ones. Like, what do you love? what are your business goals, and work simultaneously on those things that makes you happy.
Ozzin, I want to thank you for being here. Is there anything else you'd like to add or anything you want to say to my LinkedIn audience?
First of all, thank you so much for having me and for sharing this journey. I think the last message I want to leave with everyone is, if you're hearing this, I want to tell you, no matter where you are, that everything, this shall too pass. Whether it's the good moments, it's the bad. It's something that I sometimes also need to hear myself when you're in a situation where you don't like. And oftentimes we suffer because we don't accept our current reality. I think putting sometimes this ego aside and saying, okay, I accept my radical reality right now. And when it's good, like, enjoy it fully your life. When it's bad, this shall to pass, it will be fine. Always lead by courage over confidence. A lot of the things that I've built today was not because I was confident in, it was just because I had courage. I had no clue what I was doing sometimes. I don't even know how I made money sometimes, but like, you hire the people, go to the people who have the results that you want. I think having mentors cuts your learning curve. The first thing is really have courage, and choose courage over and over and over again for every level that you grow, and you will see new results in your life.
Well, Ozzin, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. I am so honored. My audience must love you. I had record number of people accept the invitation. We are live right now. I'm going to propagate it again. It's probably going to be propagated all day on LinkedIn, and then I'll just edit this a bit. You were practically perfect. I don't think there's anything you said that I really have to seriously edit, but I just might do a few snippets here and then repost it. Thank you, everyone. This is the Wealth Queen. If you need a mentor, she's your girl. Thank you. And we will talk again. I appreciate it. Everyone on LinkedIn, thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.